Good morning. So last class we were discussing on optimization, production function and optimization of employment and employment as one of the input factors in short run. Now let's move on to long run. Short run, law of diminishing marginal utility. Yes. So law of diminishing marginal utility yesterday 9.1. Yes, this table and the followed graph we'll try to understand in yesterday's class. Let's now look at law of diminishing returns. What is law of diminishing returns? Yes, law of diminishing returns. In this concept of diminishing returns, as long as your demand for a given product is increasing, it reaches in a certain point where the consumption becomes maximum and the demand slowly falls, resulting in the diminishing of or declinement of the average cost and marginal cost, marginal utility. Okay. In this situation, the various, the various other elements are assumed to be constant. Here in this diminishing marginal utility that we have discussed in yesterday's class, all the other things remaining constant, we focused on only the inputs for production and resulting the diminishing marginal utility, which was falling, which is declining. As you can see in this table, the marginal product is starting at 11 and as the labor is increasing from 1 to 10, the marginal utility is decreasing from 11 to 9. And during this journey, the marginal, you can see it is coming up to 29 as the maximum output marginal. 26, 29, 28 are the maximum areas, the maximum limit which it could touch. Followed by, it started declining up to 9. In the same line, you see the next one, that is average product of labor also. It started with 5 and it is slowly rising. You can see it is slowly increasing. Whereas marginal, it is declining. Marginal product is declining, average product is. So here the relationship between the labor as one of the input, capital being constant, we've calculated the total cost based on which the marginal product is calculated, followed by average product of labor. Now, this will give you an understanding as to where a manager can fix or stop the labor consumption as an input, and labor, recruitment as an input, and then followed by they can continuously, consistently maintain that level, which is 29. That means the maximum labor at that point is 6 for capital being 20. So this way we try to understand its relationship, how the labor, when it is going up to 7, the marginal product is 26. When the labor is further increased to 8, the marginal product is coming down to 20. This shows that there is a relationship. Hence, you can stop recruitment or, taking up more, adding up more labor to that production activity and experience the output. On this topic, there are several criticisms which happens to, receive, like criticism on law of diminishing. Various economists say that it is quite unrealistic that the assumptions which are taken in order to develop this particular theory, the assumptions are very, unrealistic, and they've been criticizing that it is there are many successful businesses who perform well and give their best given such scenarios where the diminishing margin, where the marginal product is declining. Besides this, the diminishing marginal return doesn't sounds to be good in its performance in the case of LPG, that's liberalization, privatization, and globalization. It is said here that it is widely recognized as the effects of globalization and the ability of transnational businesses, the global businesses, and the transfer of technology from one country to another country, which makes this diminishing returns not so relevant. And then the concept is also criticized based on the operations and operations at different locations, okay, and which can switch based on to the requirement. Considering the requirement or demand for the product, they can switch between the various alternatives. So the law of diminishing marginal utility has been criticized as well. All right. Yes. Then we have the various factors of production, which we've been discussing. Like factors of production involve few factors which are fixed and few which are variable. Factors which are fixed can be, example, capital, land, etc., technology, sometimes in the short run exclusively, whereas the same technology becomes variable in the long run. Okay, so variable are the kind of inputs required for the production activity, which are prone to change based on the requirement of the production. It keeps on changing. Number of units it is produced. Suppose a simple example I would quote here. Suppose in case your production activity involves 100 units of production in a day. And the fixed cost, which includes your capital, land, and the technology, is for 100 units. Suppose in 50, rupees 50 per unit is fixed. Whereas variable cost is suppose rupees 18 per unit. In that case, in this case, okay, fixed cost and variable cost. Suppose for 100 units to be produced, fixed cost is for 100 units, it is 50 rupees, suppose. Whereas variable cost, it is Variable cost is, say, suppose 18. Variable cost is rupees 18 per unit, suppose. Okay. So here you can see for 100 units, it is rupees 50 fixed cost. It's fixed whether you produce 100. Suppose a day where you're only producing 80 units. Okay. Then even it remains 50 only fixed cost. Whereas variable cost, since it is 80, it will be calculated per unit, 80 into 80. So your variable cost will change, which is based on the number of units that you are producing, whereas your fixed cost remains same. Whether you are producing less, even a time where you are producing less, it remains fixed. Certain factors in the production activity are fixed, like land, labor, or capital, etc. So that investments are fixed, whereas variable costs like administration, advertising, salaries, postage, stamp, transportation, all these comes under variable cost, which tends to change based upon the number of units that you are producing. So in the short run, there are cases like technology, for example, in the short run is considered to be fixed, whereas in the long run, the same technology may not be considered as fixed in a given scenario. They can be variable. Why? Because in the long run, technology can go obsolete and there can be a change in the technology. There can be new versions and new revisions, which probably the company would adopt. So hence, likewise, the example of technology, there could be many other inputs required for production activity, which stands variable in short run as compared to long run. Okay. Next topic is law of variable proportions. Again, this is also very important. Please do make a note. Law of variable proportion. Okay, now what is law of variable of proportion? Law of variable of proportion is again the relationship and understanding of the relationship between the inputs of production activity. Okay. Now here in this law, inputs and output relationship is measured. Okay. A small change in input leads to a change in output. How much varying the quantity of one input is what you focus here on to understand. The quantity of one factor, differs, keeping all the other quantity or the other factors as constant. So the proportion between these variable factors and fixed factors, okay, are understood. And this process of, relationship between input and output is referred as law of variable proportion. Law of variable proportion. Now, if you look at this, in this particular law, the effect of on output of variation in factors of production are generally studied. And the law is referred as law of variable proportion because the variables are changing. Fixed remains same here. The law of variable proportion is the new name for the famous law of diminishing returns of classical. Now, if you see this, the concept which you have been learning since yesterday, law of diminishing returns, it is in conventional theory, classical theory given by the economist, which is again the same, if you all remember and recollect, the relationship between an input and output. Okay, how one input will have, if changed, will have impact on the overall output, marginal product and average product of the production activity. So it is a new version, you can say, law of variable proportion. Now, this particular law plays a significant role, and it occupies in very specific place, and tries to understand, enables to understand us the importance of modern economic theory, and it explains and supports with evidential proofs in the real world. So this is, something which is more popularly adopted by the managers in various decision-making process. Besides, you see, many economists have given the definitions, okay, classical, modern economists, etc. Any one or two definitions, if you are looking forward, see, there's one definition given here by Benham F. The proportion of one factor in a combination of factor is increased after a point. First, the marginal and then the average product of the factor will diminish. Okay, this is what we've understood in law of diminishing marginal utility. It is the same law of variable proportion, the new version of it. Same. See, capital land remains the same. One variable, that is labor, which was changing in 9.1 table, if you recollect. One factor, labor, which was changing from, starting from 1 to, it was continuously increasing up to 10. This increase, though the capital remains same, this increase in the labor had impact on the marginal product and average product. Okay, this is what we are studying. And see, a marginal product, it has reached a place of 29, and since then again it started falling. That means when the labor was 6, it was maximum, that is 29. When the labor is further increasing from 6 to 10, the marginal product for that activity is declining. Hence, it is referred as marginal law of diminishing marginal utility. And now it is called as law of variable proportion. This means also the same thing. One factor of the production will be slightly varied. Okay, the assumptions of this law of variable are more or less same like what we've understood for marginal utility. So the assumptions are like, first one, the technology is assumed to be given and it should be unchanged. This is in short run. Okay. And a second is the inputs whose quantity is kept fixed. One way we can alter the factor of production and its effect is on output. So this law does not apply in case if all the factors are proportionately varied. Suppose in capital, land, and labor, all three are varying, then this particular law does not apply there. Okay, only one of the factor should vary and the remaining should be constant. And lastly, you see the varied proportion in which the factors of production are combined to produce a product. Here, the law does not apply for those cases where the factors must be fixed to yield a product. I mean, there is an aim or goal for a production activity. In order to yield such, if you are changing the factors, then this law will not apply in such cases. So the law is purely based upon the possibility of varying, either varying or the possibility of varying, and the proportion being combined to produce a product. Okay. The various factors which are involved in production activity are rigid and fixed. They increase if one factor would not lead to an increase in the output. The marginal product will be zero and never be declining. Okay, however, but if you see the fixed proportions of factors are quite uncommon, then the law of variable proportion applies to most of the cases of production in the real world. Hence, here you see in this table of law of returns, labor in the first column is given total product, marginal product, and average product. Now you see a given fixed quantity of land. As you know, the farmer raises employment of labor from 1 unit to 7 units. You can see it is 504 at 7 units, the total product, okay, in quintals. And yes, it is clearly stating that if you look at the column 3, the marginal product of labor, okay, as an extra unit is getting added every time it is increasing, but the marginal product of labor, can be recalled as increment in total output due to the extra addition of labor. From when the labor is 1 in unit, the total product is 80. And when the labor is 2, it is 170. So on and so forth, it is increasing up to 8. When the labor is 8, it is maximum 504. And where it is maximum, the marginal product is 0, you can see. Right? So when these 3 units of labor are employed, marginal product is 100. And if you see the 4 and 5 units of labor, the marginal product is 98 and 62, which is slightly declining. It is also, you can see here that 8 units of labor, the total product is declining from 8th unit. Therefore, here we can say that marginal product of labor is becoming 0. Okay, marginal product is 0. And you see as average product of labor is rising. And when it is at 4th unit of labor, it is falling. That is 92. When it is 4th unit. And here in marginal product, it is maximum at 3rd unit. There are 3 stages in this law of variable proportion. Okay. Now let's look at the 3 different stages of this law of variable proportion.
Ma'am, we need to join another call, ma'am.
Yeah? Why? Another call? Can you please come back? I didn't get you. Well, I did not get any response. Let me start with this. Okay. So here, this is the graphical representation of law of variable proportion. Here you can see this is the variable factor, x-axis, and this is y-axis, which is total output. There are 2, figures. Please do make a note. Amount of variable factor, same thing. In the second graph, you see it is y-axis is average and marginal products. Whereas here it is total output. Okay, now let's move on. You see there are 3 stages here. Okay, this is stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. What happens in every stage? Yes. You see from 0, stage 1, it is increasing. It is increasing. And yes, marginal product and average product, both are increasing. Okay, thereafter, it is slightly average and marginal product. Average product is increasing, but marginal product is declining. And there is an intersection point of average product and marginal product where it is 0.
Yeah, ma'am, sorry for interrupting you. You only continue this under 1 hour also. Actually, we need to join another session with Roy, sir.
Okay.
Quantitative analysis for research. Are you taking this session also?
The time given to me is from 12 to 1.
Roy, sir, 1:30, ma'am.
Yeah, it should be 1:30, I think. But for this class, managerial economics, it is 12 to 1.
Okay.
Is any confusion?
Yeah. Sorry, ma'am. Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, your classes are starting, I think, by 11 o'clock, right? From 11.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
11 is first session and 12 to 1 is another session.
Yeah. Thanks, ma'am.
Followed by lunch, 1 to 1:30.
Yeah.
Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, stage 1. What is the stage 1? Stage 1, there are 2 graphs which we are discussing. In this stage, the TP is increasing, the total product is increasing. You can see it is increasing. Yes. And what else you can look at the graph if you have your books and see what are the various changes happening at the stage 1 for both the graphs. Is my screen on?
Yes, ma'am.
You can see the picture?
Yes.
Right. Let me know if my screen goes off because there is some error I am finding. Okay. So what do you observe in the stage 1? In the stage 1, you observe that the total product curve, TP curve, is rising. And in this figure, the origin is from F. You see it is from F. And the total product curve, TP, is increasing. That's total product curve, which means that marginal product of the variable factor is rising. This F point, where from it is starting, the total product is rising, and a slope point is a declining point where, from the point F onwards, the TP increases at a diminishing, that means reducing rate. The TP is become concave downward and marginal product slightly falls, but still it is positive. Right. Then vertically, if you look at corresponding to this point of inflection, marginal product is maximum. That is, it is at 100. If you remember the table, or if you have, you just look at the table. It is after which it starts slowly declining. This means that marginal product of the variable factor starts declining beyond OL point and the variable factor. Stage 1, starts operating from point D, MP curve from OL, and amount of variable factor cost. Variable factors which are used. Now, the first stage basically ends at, you see, the AP when it is reaching highest point. And the point S on AP, okay, is amount of variable factor which is used. So stage 1, if you look at marginal product and variable factor, both are falling. Still, they're exceeding the average product, and so it continues to cause the average product to rise. It is making that curve to go high. In this particular stage, marginal product is fixed. And, the marginal product of any fixed factor is negative, minus. The quantity of the fixed factor becomes too much relative to the variable factor, which is withdrawn. And so the total product is increasing. The stage 2, if you look at that, in the curve, stage 2, where the total product is still, it is increasing, but at a declining rate. There is a point H where the second stage is ending. In this stage, marginal product, the below figure you see, marginal product and average product. Both, products, average and marginal of the variable factor, are declining. But they are not negative yet. They are still positive. They are declining, but they are not negative. Now, the point where this stage is ending at M, marginal product, the below figure, the variable factor is 0. This corresponding highest point of H it is. The total product curve is TP. You look at up. Stage 2 is, little challenging for a manager to be explained and understood, and very important as well to understand the relationship between the TP, MP, and AP. And then finally, the third stage, which is negative returns, which gives negative returns. If the manager is able to balance and take up the challenge of stage 2 and make the take up the necessary measures to overcome it, then, they sustain. Otherwise, it becomes more dangerous and you reach the third stage, which is usually referred as negative returns. And this is a stage where, there is an increase in the variable factor and total product yield is declining. The curve, if you see, total product curve, it is downward sloping. As a result, what happens is the variable factor will become negative. The marginal product curve goes below the x-axis. That means it is negative. This stage, since you see all the curves are declining and steeply they are, declining, and MP in fact is reaching the negative, area on the curve, negative. It is crossing the x-axis and reaching the negative line below the line x-axis. Hence, this stage is referred as stage of negative returns. And the marginal product of the variable factor is negative during this stage. It is negative. You see in the table, it is given negative, minus. So now, how important it is for a producer, to look at production activity. For a wise producer, a manager will never wait or, or never wait or anticipate stage 3 ever, because it is a stage which gives all negative. Okay, so it is quite clear that the producer or the manager should never reach stage 3. So precautionary measures should be taken. If they are into stage 2, there itself, they should understand that they should have a check on the labor inputs, fixed factors, so that they don't decline further. If you look at the graph and understand point M, it is the second stage where the marginal and variable factors are 0. At that point itself, the production, the producer has to choose either to, take necessary measures and move back to stage 1, where the marginal product is doing good and the average product as well. That's a wise decision. But a producer producing in stage 1 is good. And, it is making the best use of all the fixed factors, utilizing all the opportunities, production increasing quantity, factors whose average product continuously are rising. So a rational entrepreneur or a producer will not stop in stage 1, but will expand. So for a producer, if you look at stage 1 and stage 3, stage 1 and stage 3 are usually referred as economic absurdity and economic nonsense. And the stage 1 and 3 represents non-economic regions in production functions. A rational producer will always produce in stage 2, where both marginal and average products for the variable factors are declining. And the producer will take a decision with respect to, the prices of the factors. Stage 2 basically is a very balanced move. Okay, so that is about law of, diminishing marginal utility of law of variable proportion. Next, we have causes of increase and decrease of marginal returns to factors. What are the various causes? Why does it increase or decrease? So the initial increasing of marginal returns, could be attributed to the smaller quantity, small amount of fixed factors, which becomes possibly, the result which increases the returns which are aimed at. Now, at this level, it gives rise to a question as to why the fixed asset is not initially taken appropriate quantity, which best suits the available quantity for the variable factor. Why it was not? See, the more units of variable factors are employed to work, without, finding undivisible fixed factors, then it leads to great increase in the beginning due to, fuller utilization of the fixed factors. Yeah, it is undivisible of some factors, which also, could be the reasons for increase in returns to the variable factors at the beginning level in stage 1. Since more units of variable factors are employed, the efficiency of the variable increases. This is because where the sufficient quantity of the variable factor, it becomes possible to introduce, specializations or say division of labor, etc. The greater the quantity of the variable factor, the greater will be the scope of specialization. Hence, we conclude that the greater will be the level of its productivity or efficiency. The other factors of which causes the law of diminishing marginal returns to factors are the one reason it is undivisible. The fixed factors are undivisible. And importantly, increasing returns to, at the beginning, when it is undivisible, which has to be employed, whether whatever you are producing, small or large. I just explained, fixed factor and variable factors. Fixed factor and variable factor in a given example where 100 units are produced and the fixed cost is rupees 50. Whether you produce 100 or 80, the fixed cost remains same. The fixed cost will not change. And this could be one of the reasons for the marginal returns to decline. So usually if you look at another input like employment as a variable factor, which is not divisible, and fixed factor, which is fully and efficiently used. In this situation, again, variable factor has increased to such an amount that fixed factor is being used to the best or optimum utilization, we call. So one of the optimum proportion which is, disturbed or, increases in the variable factor are returns to variable factors. In simple way, the fixed factor is being used in non-optimal proportion with the variable factor. Law of variable proportion में the famous economist Robinson stated that in this law of diminishing returns, there is a limit to the extent to which the factors of production can be substituted. There is a limit for this substitution. And beyond that limit, if you go, it leads to declinement. So he stated that the elasticity of substitution between the factor is not infinite, because a point comes where it goes, declining. This basically law of variable proportion operates, because of the elasticity of substitution between the factors when it is assumed not finite. Okay. Next reason could be, the total product is declining and the marginal product or the variable product becomes negative. That is the third stage where it is reaching the negative below x-axis. And this particular phenomena of negative marginal returns to the variable returns is due to the fact that the variable factor is becoming too excessive to the fixed factor. So that they obstruct each other and, they intersect each other, and the total output falls instead of rising. instead of rising. Okay. So too large number of variable factors impairs the efficiency of the fixed factors, whereas, it is said, no, that in a given situation, if you reduce one unit, the variable factor will increase the total output. So that is how you try to understand and employ this in the managerial decision making, law of variable proportion, right? These two figures along with this table should be presented while you are writing law of variable proportion. In the examinations, these two figures with the law of variable proportion, this table 9.2 along with 9.3. Yeah, don't take it to be two different graphs. They are, yes, two different graphs, but represent the same concept, law of variable proportion. Upper one being, focusing on total output. The lower one is considering average and marginal products. All right. So this was a relationship between, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Law of variable proportion has 3 stages. You can see in the long answers, critically evaluate the law of variable proportion. So this can be asked, it's a very important. And the same, in the short run, these are the conditions for optimizing the employment as one of the input. Whereas in the long run, it is quite different. So this particularly we will be taking up in the next session, because if we start, we may not be able to totally finish today's class. So we'll be doing it in the next class. That's optimization of employment in the long run, as in factor in the long run. Okay. So any doubts until here? Anyone, any queries, put up in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
The law of marginal proportion table, 2 graphs, and it is simply to, an explanation required in theoretical, in a theory. How are they, relating? Stage 1, what is the condition? Stage 2, stage 3. It is simply an explanation which you should be, giving in the answers, in the form of answers. A table followed by graphical representation. That's it. All right. So if in case you have doubts, please come up. Otherwise, we can end the session here. You can have lunch, and followed by, I think at 1:30, your next session would be starting.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Assignment questions are given to the students to do it on their own. Yes, in case if you have any queries on a particular question, like the other day, Sunita from your group was asking, I showed her. I cannot show you the exact solutions, but I can show you the way you have to do. I can give you hints on likewise, problems, etc., theory, etc. I can help you out, but exactly showing the solutions, etc., is not allowed. Okay, so you just let me know what is it. Questions definitely you'll not find in the similar kind of information you will definitely find in your textbooks. So in case if you are still not able to, let me know what is that topic. I can help you out where it is, to locate where it is. I will help you out the way I helped Sunita in the previous class. Now we can discuss. Yeah. So I think we can end up the session here. Take care, good day and happy learning. See you all in the next session. We'll be doing long run in the next session. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.